6:36, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on in, along with Joan Jones. KGB, Jeff Malinoff is producing today, and Congressman Andy Ogles is joining us on the Newsmaker Hotline. Congressman, always great to have you on. So you spent the weekend at Mar-a-Lago. So let's talk about the reasons why you were there, but also, was this your first time at Mar-a-Lago?
No, so it's I've been to Mar-a-Lago before, but I had dinner with the president Friday night. So over the weekend, he invited down key individuals from the House of Representatives to literally just to have dinner with him, to break the bread, to talk about our priorities and, how we make America great again.
All right. So how many, if you don't mind, how many people were there? And what did all of you have in common? Because there's got to be a reason why this specific group was, I noticed Chip Roy was there, I think. Why was this specific group invited?
So he did a series of 3 dinners. Friday night was the Freedom Caucus. And so there's about 20 or so of us there. And then last Saturday night he did, so you've got what you call the SALT guys, but it has to do with, tax deduction primarily affecting New York, New Jersey, California. They're kind of holding out to raise the caps on that. And so there's kind of this back and forth between the Freedom Caucus. Obviously, we're wanting to cut the budget and do things like that. However, these guys are wanting to raise that cap. And then last night he did chairman of the various committees. So he's strategically making sure that he's hearing from the House of Representatives, because he's going to move fast. I mean, on his first day, he said at dinner he's going to do over 100 executive orders.
I think that's great. I mean, I would encourage him to do as many executive orders as he feels like he needs to do. So the topic of conversation during the Friday night with the Freedom Caucus, I'm assuming a lot of this had to deal with spending and the budget, continuing resolutions, and so forth.
Yeah, so we're about to go through budget reconciliation. That's where we go back and forth between the Senate and, pass a big spending bill. What we're recommending is that the president, support us breaking it into 2 pieces, which will take away some of the leverage that the big spenders in Congress have, because they can't just pile all the pork into one giant big bill. The president at first was saying he wants one big, beautiful bill. That's not necessarily a good thing. The bigger it is, the more junk gets added to it, the more complicated it becomes and harder it is to pass. And so we're saying, hey, Mr. President, let's put the border, let's put some of these important things, these big wins that the American people want. Let's do that first. Then we can get into the tax policy, which is more nerdy. It takes more time. There's going to be more back and forth, but we're committed to doing it. But let's break this into 2 pieces and make sure that you're successful in your first 100 days. He was very open to that idea. And so now I don't think you try to force whether it's 1 bill or 2 bills. I think as we move forward, it'll organically start to sort itself out, and it'll become obvious that 2 bills is better than 1, but to be determined.
How is the Republican Party? I know that you and I speak about this frequently, and I've spoken with Congressman Mark Green, Tim Burchett, Scott DesJarlais, a lot of you folks, John Rose as well. And basically the bottom line is you folks aren't fighting with Democrats. You're fighting amongst each other, if there is fighting. We all know that the Democrats, they're going to vote literally no on probably just about everything, hence all of those executive orders. But I'm going to try to ask this as respectfully as possible. How train wrecky is this going to be with all the Republicans, the different shades of fiscal conservatism? Because I think this could turn into a disaster pretty quickly.
That's a great question, but I think you look at the speaker's election. It took a little bit of time. I was one of the 4 or 5 people that helped bring it. We landed the plane on the first ballot. But that being said, is we got it done. And that's what the founding fathers intended, is the House of Representatives. It's where you argue, it's where you debate, and it's where you get the best deal for the American people, not for the lobbyists in Washington, D.C. And so that's part of my job. I go into the 119th ranked the most conservative member of Congress. And so my job is to say, look, we can do better than this. Let's not just accept the status quo. Let's not just do a big rubber stamp for more spending. We know there's waste. We know there's fraud. We know there's redundancies and duplications that can be eliminated. And so let's do that. And if we just do that, it's a step in the right direction. But Congress it doesn't have good muscle memory when it comes to cutting the budget. And that's what we're trying to do, is retrain the process And we had some victories too with the speaker's fight. So what typically will happen at the end of the week is that they'll do something on suspension, meaning that what they have to do is get 2/3 of the vote of both Republicans and Democrats. And so leadership will throw some sweetener in there to get just enough Democrats to vote for it to pass it. And they do that on flyout day. So everybody's trying to get home. But we changed the rules, the House Freedom Caucus did, where you can only do suspensions on Mondays and Tuesdays. And so now you can't just do this when everybody's literally trying to get back to their district. They're trying to get back to their events, their fundraisers, more importantly, their families. You can't do that anymore. And so it's a simple change. It's a process change. But what it does is it breaks those bad habits that have infected Congress for so long. And so, step by step. We didn't get here overnight. We're not going to fix it overnight, but that's what we're trying to do in the House Freedom Caucus.
So I think the House Freedom Caucus, you guys probably have a lot of power in this session, do you not?
Absolutely. Really any faction. So the SALT guys, those New York, New Jersey, California guys, that coalition, they have influence as well, a great deal of influence. But I think because we in the Freedom Caucus, myself, we're driven by principles. We're not malleable when it comes to, let's just go cut a deal. I ran to fix this budget. I ran to secure the border. I ran to deport the illegals that are in this country. And I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to fight for those things, even if I'm getting attacked along the way. And so I think that's truly our leverage, is that we're going to stick to our principles and we're going to fight for those things that, quite frankly, is what sent Donald Trump overwhelmingly to the White House as he won every swing state. And I think that's one of the things we can't forget. So I was on, as they were trying to force the president, the increase in the debt ceiling to the tune of $5 trillion. I'm on the phone. I'm with the speaker. He and I are on the phone with the vice president, and he's kind of giving me the what for of I just need to do this. I said, no, Mr. Vice President, this is not the right way to do it. Let's do it during reconciliation. Let's make sure we get some of those budget cuts that are promised, and let's go fight for these things that the American people want. And ultimately, we stopped it, and we're going to go through that process. Now, it takes a little more time. It's a little more complicated, but at the end of the day, the American people win when we do it the right way.
Coming up on 645, Congressman Andy Ogles is joining us. He spent the weekend at Mar-a-Lago, getting details on that. Coming up, Congressman, I'm going to ask you, you talked about two separate bills for the reconciliation. And so you said that the first bill will have, it sounds like a lot of the slam dunk stuff is going to be in that first reconciliation bill. I want to talk about a timeline, and I also want to talk about what exactly will be in that first bill. Illegal immigration, of course. Want to find out what else is going to be in that bill. 645, time to check the roads on WTN. Weather today, high of 38 and right now 31 degrees at Super Talk 99.7. WTN Congressman Andy Ogles is joining us. All right, Congressman, so budget reconciliation bill, the first one that will, as you say, or no, I'm using this terminology, but pretty much all the slam dunk stuff. Talk about the slam dunk stuff.
Well, I think number one, and this was one of the things that the president said when we were at dinner on Friday night, is that, look, the American people want the border secure. They want, the illegals, especially the criminals amongst them, out of the country. And he even said, that, when you look at Central and South America, their prisons are virtually empty.
Yep.
Their crime rates have dropped, have bottomed out. Why? Because they're literally sending their worst of the worst of their populations to our country. And so we need to, one, what you'll see is, I think, some additional money for border security, because it's going to take money to deport individuals. I think what you've seen with, in the art of the deal, think about President Trump. He's talked about acquiring Greenland, and suddenly you have Denmark in a panic saying, hey, let's talk. We're gonna start blocking China acquiring all of these precious resources that are in Greenland. So if you're wondering why would the president do that? Why would he want Greenland? Is because Greenland is resource rich, and China is making an aggressive move towards that territory, which is literally in our front or backyard, however you want to look at it. And so we've got to say, hey, this is our sphere of influence. This is our hemisphere. Get the heck out. And so President Trump's going to fight for that. But back to your question, it's going to be all about security. I think you're going to see some minor budget cuts, nothing crazy. I think you'll see, because of Russia defense, the drone technology, some additional monies for defense. But one of the things that we have to do in the Freedom Caucus is, as they're adding money to this, is to look and find those places to make it balance out one for one. And so that, now it's time to roll up the sleeves and see how much we can actually get cut in this first bill. I'm a big advocate for the two bills. I've obviously had dinner with the president. I've texted with the president, kind of doubling down on two is the way. I work closely with the Speaker of the House, and I've been wearing him out as well. So we'll see what happens over the next few days. I think the timeline, again, back to your question, is if we do two bills, we can get that first one done in the first 100 days, certainly by mid-March. And so that's the path forward. That's what we're fighting for.
In the headlines on Friday, this was over the weekend, not really well reported because of all the fires going on in California. But the Biden administration on Friday issuing sweeping extensions of deportation protections. It sounds like you know what I'm talking about. Basically, what the Biden administration has done with the extension of the temporary protected status is he is making it harder for Donald Trump to deport 234,000 Salvadorians, 1,900 Sudanese, 104,000 Ukrainians, and my biggest concern, 600,000 Venezuelans. What does this mean?
Well, I think, this administration has been an absolute train wreck, and the proof is in the economy. The proof is in the border. The proof is in crime. You look at the human trafficking ring that was just busted in Nashville this past week. I mean, the worst of the worst are coming here. And so what you've seen President Biden do is, block leases for oil and gas, on our coast. You see him trying to give protected status to illegals that are here in this country. Like you say, it makes it much more challenging to deport them. And some of those individuals, we know they're murderers. Like, they have actually murdered 1 to 2 or more people back in their home countries. Why would we want those folks here, right? They're criminals. And so there's a lot of work ahead. But the Biden administration, they're doubling down on these failed policies in the same way they doubled down on the woke agenda. It backfired. There was a backlash. The American people had enough. And I think that's why you're going to see Trump move so aggressively with the executive orders to try to undo all of these crazy executive orders that President Biden has done over the last 4 years and most certainly in the last 30 days.
All right, Congressman, I got 30 seconds. How's the food at Mar-a-Lago?
It's actually pretty good. I'll be honest with you. And Trump is, obviously we were talking business, but, he's in a great spirits. He's got tons of energy. He's ready to go. He's ready to fight. I enjoyed the company and the conversation as much or more than I enjoyed the food, but it was a great time. I look forward to going back. I look forward to working with the president.
All right, Andy Ogles, Congressman, thank you very much as always. It is 6:50, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Joan Jones has the news at 7. Joan, what's coming up?
That was a pretty cool interview, Jam.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So coming up here at 7 o'clock this morning, there could be a lifeline for TikTok. We'll tell you who it is and what's new in the effort to find the cause of the Palisades fire. Those stories at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTM.
Thank you, Joan. 6:50, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Homeowners, it is time to start fresh here in 2025. Dan Mandis here indeed. Loan Pronto is here to help you take control of your finances in 2025 by lowering your house payment and consolidating that nagging debt. Did you know that 9 out of 10 borrowers get a better deal by calling Loan Pronto? That's right. Right now, Loan Pronto has some of the most competitive offers for refis, debt consolidation, and purchase loans starting in the low 5s APR. And if your current rate is over 6%, don't settle for paying too much, even if you're in process with another lender. Call my friends at Loan Pronto. They rock. Now, lock in a lower rate today and close in as little as 2 weeks, often with no appraisal. You can even skip your next 2 house payments. It is fast, it is easy, and hassle-free. Get your personalized Loan Pronto rate quote instantly with no hard credit pull and no upfront fees. Call them right now. Tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. 615-499-5780. 615-499-5780. Always find them online. It's loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval, NMLS consumeraccess.org.